Hello, anatomy and physiology. We are here today to talk about the liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. We last left off on the stomach, and next step seems to be like we should go over the small intestine, but these organs are important because they empty their enzymes into our small intestine. And Penny is here today. She's even got her textbook and her notebook with her, although she might start sleeping. All right, here we go. Now, before we get into the digestive system, you'll see on your homework today that there's a review of basic chemistry. So the reason why I have this on your assignment is kind of twofold. One, we will have finals coming up eventually. And two, we will be needing to review some of this in order to understand how these materials get broken down. So if you have, hopefully at home, all of your notes that we've done so far, when it comes time for the final, we'll need to revisit and relook at some of that stuff anyways. So see if you can find your Unit 2 review on basic chemistry. These pictures are all from pages, I think, 2, 3, and 4 from that packet. And you can use your own writing, hopefully, on there to help identify these structures for your homework. But just as a real fast review, we've got our 4 main macromolecules: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. So on this screenshot here, we've got the carbohydrates are up here. So as a quick review, monosaccharides, those are one sugars. They just have a single carbon ring. It might be a pentagon or a hexagon, but it's always a ring. And each of those little corners there have carbon in them. When you put 2 monosaccharides together, you get a disaccharide, a double sugar like sucrose. And then if you hook a whole bunch of them, a whole chain of them together, you get a polysaccharide. So these are our sugars. The lipids are underneath here, and the lipids are these long chains of carbon hydrogen. So it might be written this way, or it might be like a long line of C's with H's on both sides. But if you see that with a little carbon and oxygen attached to one end, you're looking at a fat. Okay, these are our lipids. Now, we also discussed a special kind of lipid, the phospholipid, which is making up your cell membranes. They just have 2 chains, carbon-hydrogen chains, and then they also have that phosphate group, a phosphorus with oxygen surrounding it, that makes that phospho part of the phospholipid up here, the purple piece. All right, and then we've got our proteins, super important for building tons of different stuff in our body. So the proteins are listed up here. What we're really looking at are amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. And those amino acids all have the same structure. This thing in orange is all the same for all of them. They have a central carbon, that carboxyl group, and that amine group, the nitrogen with 2 hydrogens. And that's where we get amino acid, the amine and carboxyl groups. And these guys, okay, all have a variable group. That's the R factor right here. And so that piece changes depending what amino acid we have. If you remember when we did that lab activity, you each built your own amino acid, and gave you the variable group, the R group, and you were asked to change it. And then we hooked all of them together to try to build a protein. Those are the amino acids. So if they have that basic structure of that amine group, carboxyl group, but then that other piece is variable, you're looking at an amino acid. And then the last group are the nucleic acids, like our DNA and RNA. The building block of that is right here. That's a nucleotide. Nucleic acids are made of nucleotides, and they have a phosphate group. They've got a sugar, and then that nitrogenous base on there. So just a quick review, you're going to see these guys pictured, and so your notes will be super helpful. So for today, we're mostly just talking anatomy of these organs, not their functions or what they're secreting into our small intestine. So we last left off on the stomach. If the stomach was on this picture, it'd be sitting right here. It covers up the pancreas, which is right here a little bit. And then this C-shaped structure, see how it kind of hugs the outside of the pancreas? This is the first part of the small intestine. Why we're not talking about the small intestine yet, though, is because notice all of these ducts that are leading to the small intestine beginnings here. That's why we need to talk about our pancreas, gallbladder, and liver, because they all have important stuff that gets secreted into this beginning part of the small intestine, which is, by the way, called the duodenum. That's the first tail of our small intestine. I believe this is page 5 of your packet. So you guys may want to color code this if you're a person that likes to color code. I think it will make identifying the different ducts a little bit easier for you. And I use different colors specifically to sort of show the differences between them. And this right here is dark green and this right here is light green. They are different right there and there. Just want to point that out. So first off, you can see I added some lines on here. I want you to first, we're going to go through and label the organs. And those are the typed in lines that already exist on there. So the brown structure, right, that I've kind of outlined, colored here in brown, is your liver. Your liver is a very large organ, larger than your brain. And it sits kind of right here. If you kind of took your right hand, placed it right underneath your rib cage, okay, it sits right there, right tucked up underneath the diaphragm. This sort of empty space, like I said, here's the stomach. So they're kind of right next to each other underneath your diaphragm. What divides the liver here and kind of attaches it to the abdominal wall is this structure called the falciform ligament. And it just holds it in place. It also kind of bisects the liver and creates these two separate appearing lobes, your right and the left. Now, a lot of people think that there's 2 lobes of the liver. There's actually 4. It just seems like there's 2 because of the way that this falciform ligament divides it. So there's 4 lobes, not just 2. And our next organ is what I colored yellow down here. That's going to be the pancreas. We've talked about the pancreas when we did the endocrine system. It secretes important hormones, insulin and glucagon, but it also has important digestive functions as well. And I colored pink here, the C-shaped structure that hugs the pancreas, the duodenum, is already labeled for you. And then tucked underneath the liver here is the gallbladder. Now, the way I colored it, this little piece of the gallbladder peeks out, and then the rest of this that I outlined in green is tucked underneath the liver. So if you had a liver, you could like lift the little edge of it and say peekaboo to the gallbladder sitting right underneath it. All right. So those are all of the organs that I want us to note. And then a lot of them different ducts bringing their secretions out of the organ. And then if you notice, everything merges in this exact same spot and empties into the duodenum. So the first one we're going to talk about is the pancreatic duct. So that one's easy to remember. It's on the pancreas, the pancreatic duct. And so its secretions follow out this tube and empty into the duodenum. But they merge right before they empty into the duodenum. They merge with this tube right here, which is coming off of my gallbladder. Now, the top part of this, closest to the gallbladder, is called the cystic duct. Cystic duct is next to the gallbladder, but then it merges with this other duct over here. Once it merges with the other, it's called the bile duct. And as you can probably guess, it is secreting bile into your small intestine. Now, up above, the thing it merges with is these other ducts coming off of the liver. You have the common hepatic duct, and it branches off into 2 different sides, the right and the left. Okay? And so all of these different ducts are coming from the different organs, but it's kind of like almost like a river system, if you want to think of it that way. These channels and passageways, everything is going to empty into the duodenum right here. So the right, and by the way, even though it's on the left side of the page, it's the individual's right, not yours. Okay? So the right hepatic duct, the left hepatic duct, they form the common hepatic duct. You can see it's not very long. When it merges with the cystic duct, it then turns into the bile duct. Okay? And so hepatic and cystic form the bile duct. And then that bile duct is going to merge at the very end with the pancreatic duct everywhere. It's going to empty its secretions into the small intestine. All right. So one other thing I want to mention to you about the liver is its blood flow. There's a secondary video I want you to watch today, just about the first, I think I said 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The gentleman who does the video is a really great artist, and he's drawing all these things as he's describing the anatomy. But what I really want you to see in that video is the blood flow. This picture should look familiar when we did our cardiovascular system and we traced the path of blood through the body. When you got to the liver right here, and we were drawing these, I told you guys, I was like, okay, be very careful. I wanted you to draw this in a specific way. So coming into, you've got these mesenteric arteries that feed the intestines, your spleen, your stomach and other things. All of the things that are absorbing nutrients, they have to get double checked by your liver. So we're absorbing all those nutrients, and then we, send it back to the heart, and then we pump all of that stuff throughout the rest of the body. We want to make sure that all of the stuff that just got absorbed from your digestive system is safe. And so your liver is a detoxifier. And so it's going to make sure that all that stuff getting absorbed is safe to go to the cells of your body. So before any of the nutrients that got absorbed by your intestines can get to the heart, it's got to go through another security check, the liver. And the liver, let's say somebody were to drink alcohol, for example, we don't want that alcohol getting to our body cells because it can damage them, or any kind of harmful toxin by chance. So your liver is going to purify things that it needs to ensure that it's safe. So this unique circulation that it does is called the hepatic portal circulation. Don't be totally confused by this. The liver has its own oxygenated blood flow as well. It's called the hepatic artery, but only about 25% of the blood that the liver gets is oxygenated. Everything else it gets, about 75% of it, is deoxygenated because it's doing that extra security check for your body to detoxify things. So its blood circulation is a little different and unique. Okay, this picture we have not filled out yet. It is page 9 of your packet. This is just a review of all of the structures we've talked about. Our mouth, what have we got here? The pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, the tooth and the tongue, salivary glands. We're going to fill that out later when I want to review for your test. But I do want to talk a little bit about the functions of our liver. The gallbladder doesn't do much, and I'll talk about that in a second. But so our pancreas, and liver, and gallbladder we talked about today. What I want you to list underneath here, though, are the major functions of our liver. Some I've already mentioned, some we'll talk about more detail later. So metabolism, so how we break down and digest substances in our bodies. The liver, many of the secretions it makes is going to help break down carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins in the small intestine. So its secretions that it's putting in there are going to help break apart those chemical components. And we'll get into that in more detail. But it also is storage. It stores vitamins and minerals. It also stores quite a bit of blood. Extra blood is stored in your liver because of the amount of blood that it's filtering. Speaking of which, that's the next function, blood filtering. As I just mentioned, it sort of makes sure everything is good to go in your body, and detoxification as well. So alcohol, toxins, things like that will be taken care of through your liver. And then the last one that you're probably familiar with is the production of bile. So bile is what gives your feces its color, and it is really important in breaking down fats. It does this thing that we call emulsifies, the emulsification of fats. And what that means is it breaks the fats into smaller pieces. So if you remember, fats and lipids, they don't like water, they're hydrophobic. And so in your intestines, when there's lots of water and other things mixing around, those fats would form these globules together and become these big chunks, and then they wouldn't be able to get broken apart. Bile is super important because it makes the little fat droplets smaller and much easier for your body to digest instead of one big clump. So it emulsifies, it breaks apart the lipids to keep them from getting too globular. If somebody's had their gallbladder removed, they might have an issue processing some fats, and so they're recommended to avoid a lot of fatty foods if they've had their gallbladder removed. Now, the gallbladder does not make bile, okay? The liver makes the bile, but the gallbladder stores it. And that's all the gallbladder does. So if somebody has their gallbladder removed, they're just missing the thing that stores the bile for them. The gallbladder does not make it. And so on that point, I have some little jokes here for you from my favorite cartoonist, the Awkward Yeti. Liver here is saying, "What is it, gallbladder? Can't you see I have a lot to do? I made these. You made stones? You're just supposed to hold what I give you. Get out. Go on." And cute little gallbladder sad, "I made these." And here's another one. Hey buddy, be a good helper and hold on to this for a while. Okay. Little bile he's giving him there. "I's helping. Big helper. I's a good helper." And he's not helping because he's making gallstones out of that bile. And gallstones can be a serious and painful condition where the bile clumps together and becomes hardened, and then passing it out of that cystic duct and then bile duct can be very painful, similar to kidney stones. So cute little gallbladder, not being very helpful here. So that's it for today. Make sure and go in and do your homework, and please watch that short video that I also linked for you. Have an awesome day.